doesn't take us at all into our next story, which is Spider-Man 2, the first thoughts and review.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
have you? Haven't really been playing it much, have you, Greg? You've been watching cutscenes.
I've been doing the cutscenes a little bit again. Like I have actually have the game, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to really sit down proper and play it until. And I know some people on my on the audience side of Real Rejects like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, I said I would. I gave you guys a heads up. This is what I'm going to be doing because I wanted to do coverage for it, and I probably wouldn't be able to get around to sit down and play it properly. Honestly,
for years.
probably not till like after Thanksgiving. Just looking at this current schedule, maybe like actual Christmas time, and I've done that thing where I like rush to review a game and rush through it, and I mean by rushing I mean like 40 hours and then trying to get a review up and stuff, and it's just like it robs me of the enjoyment factor, So I'm able to just take in the story right now, which is great because then I could
Yeah,
really take my
and the
time, which is
cutscene's
important.
still the exact same story. I mean, you're
I
experiencing it surprised and getting all the story beats the same.
Yeah,
So I don't
I'm
think
I'm
you're
st- I'm
losing out
loving
if
the
you just
story though. I don't find myself go like I might have a moment or two where I'm like, oh, I wish I saw the gameplay, but I love having that reserved for me, and I am loving the story a lot. I'm only about halfway through. He does have the black suit right now at this point. But I think the more it goes, the better it gets. And so far, right now, like I don't know what the ultimate end of the story is going to be. The one thing I wasn't expecting to walk away from is this is one of my favorite Harry Osborns I've ever seen. Like I've seen in terms of like adaptation. I've watched Spectacular Spider-Man. I really love that show, and of course the '90s Spider-Man series, the live action ones, and this is probably my favorite Harry Osborn so far. I know it's not the thing everyone wants to talk about. Like I love the black suit. I think the way it's visually realized is great. I love hearing Yuri Lowenthal's voice just snap into the rage. When the visuals go dark, there's like certain elements that kind of gave me shades of Last of Us 2, especially the first time he gets the black suit, is what I'll say. There's a lot of great dark, like when it does go dark, I really really find it truly compelling stuff, and it just kind of just keeps getting better and better. I am finding myself currently like I'm a little more than halfway through the big chunk of the cutscenes, and maybe I wouldn't feel this way if I was actually doing the gameplay right currently, because I did play the first two games, just so people know. I actually sat down and played those, but the Craven the Hunter is one character where I am craving a little bit more. Like I think he's menacing and threatening for the most part, absolutely. I do find myself kind of craving a little bit more from just the actual scenes from him. Some of his dialogue just seems a little repetitive, Just I'm looking for a hunt, and my hunt. It's just all.
yeah.
Most of his lines just come down to, "I want my hunt," And I wish there was a little bit more nuance, I suppose, to him. Is the one thing I'm kind of
I mean,
missing.
gameplay wise, with him, a lot of the time you're fighting his lackeys who are
Yeah,
also dressed in like
the
fur
hunters. Yeah,
jackets with swords and shields and stuff. So yeah, I can totally see what you mean by that. I think in general, how I feel about the game is that it's a step up from the first two. I'm counting Miles Morales as
hmm
its game. I know some people think it's just an expansion, but I would say it's a step up from that.
yeah,
Much in the same way that Arkham City is an Arkham Knight, kind of, you can see the evolution there.
hmm
And in terms of traversal, I keep joking that they should call him Glider Man because I'm just gliding everywhere. But once you start chaining things together and you can slingshot and glide and swing, and it just all works so well, and it feels like a complete evolution, much in the same way that Arkham Knight had the Batmobile and stuff, and you would dive into
yeah,
that, drive along, launch yourself out. It's so fluid, and the city is so realized. It just feels like it's living and breathing. And I know there's lots of stupid comments on Twitter right now being like, you can't go ride the subway or you can't ride your bike onto the subway line. It's like, mate, what are you talking about? It's just not, you're not meant to be able to do that. Like, why are you buying this game to do that? But I just think it's such a well realized world, and not to sound cliche, because I'm sure every single review's done this, and they've also done the parody of it as well. But it makes you feel like Spider Man,
Spider
and
Man.
that's yeah, definitely what I wanted from it. Now I'm not going to spoil it, But I do feel I was trying to think before, right? Is this the best Peter and Miles story we've ever got? Because I feel like, right, and
Hmm.
I can't recall in the comics completely, but I always feel like they've never really had that full relationship with each other where he's been a proper mentor to Miles and so on. There's always been something that's popped up. For example, obviously Miles was introduced in the Ultimate Comics, but Peter died in that. And then you have the Spider Verse films where Peter dies at the start of it, and then one comes from another world, but then he has to go back home, and then across the Spider Verse he comes in, and there's never really that solid Peter and Miles thing. Whereas I feel with this, it's like a true Peter and Miles story where there's not those existential things like the multiverse or them
Yeah.
it being set in another universe or they kill a character off. It's just them getting to actually grow and spend time together and kind of see how the other can help them out. And obviously, Peter's set up as that mentor in Miles's life. But with this, you kind of see how he needs Miles as well because of the stuff with the Venom story and how the symbiote attaches to him. And I don't believe I've ever seen it where Peter's been struggling with the Venom symbiote, but there's been Miles there as well to help him out and go through it. I think that's such an interesting dynamic
Yeah.
story wise, to the point where I think you're completely right with the Craven stuff. I'm not going to spoil what happens to him, but it kind of felt like it could have been any villain really. And they didn't quite get into the depth that I was really hoping that they would with him. He still works well, but there's no connection to Peter really. I think what they've done brilliantly in this series is even villains like Doc Octopus, who in the comics they've not had that massive connection to each other, but then they've done stuff like Doctor Octopus is marrying Aunt May, whereas in the first game he was his mentor and stuff, and it felt like Harry had a connection to him. And there's some villains that pop up in this that have connections to Peter, whereas Craven he's just kind of popping up in the city to basically do a Crocodile Dundee and just have a blast. But they give him a reason for why he's doing it. It's quite a poignant thing, and yeah, they handle him still pretty well, I
Yeah.
think. But I can totally see why they were like, I believe they probably came in with the idea of Craven for this game, and then realized we should really do the symbiote suit in this because it's not quite enough to carry a game. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I think everything's a step up from it. It's obviously getting rave reviews, except for from IGN, who I think gave it an 8 out of 10. I feel it deserves it's either a 9 or a 10. And yeah, there's so much in it that I love. Even just the way it opens with Sandman, it just
Yeah.
completely pulls you into it, and when you're getting thrown across the city by a giant sand man, you just like this is the next step up. This is it.
Yeah.
This is like where things should be going, and
I
the story works so well. The characters are really well developed. It feels like a proper Spider-Man story, and it makes you feel like Spider-Man.
I think they amplify a lot more of the malevolence. I think there's more of this monstrosity element to it. A lot more of these like horror creature vibes, even right from the Sandman stuff. Like this is like kind of almost a kaiju movie in a way, just of how vast the scale is of it, and how much destruction there's happening, and how horrific it all is. And I think too, to your point about like with Miles and Peter, what I've been loving so far is like while Peter is the one who always has to like hone in on the good, and he's dealing with the grief of Aunt May, and of course we know what happens when symbiote attaches himself to Peter and then brings out the darkness within him and such. You have Miles dealing with his own darkness as well without a symbiote, and how that's been a prevalent part of his character journey with Martin Lee and wanting to extract revenge, and watching how that will affect choices when so much about Spider-Man is about responsibility, is about choice. I love the line that at the bar that Aunt May drops, or like they
Mm.
explain that not Aunt May is alive or something. They explain something that Aunt May said to him at one point in his life was that balance is a process, not a destination. I'm like, that is such a poignant, that's such a powerful line to me. And it is the theme of it. I love how when Peter hears it though, he's like, oh, that's interesting. maybe Aunt May had a point about that. Like, you mean you haven't thought
Yeah,
about this yet? Like, this is like your whole character. You should have been thinking about this the entire time. That's just my favorite little nugget in like it's a split second in the game of him going, oh, maybe she had a point to that. And I'm like, yeah, it's you're Spider-Man. That is your struggle right there. Struggle for
yeah,
balance.
yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I don't know. It's just a
Well,
lesson you can walk away with. I think in like real life is because people always talk about balance. You gotta find balance, and I do. What I think of why Spider Man has connected with so many people is those relatabilities qualities and the themes and the lessons that you can actually take away from a Spider Man story, despite it being like so fictional and larger than life. A quote like that is just a good lesson in life to apply, that it is a practice, it is a discipline, it's not really a thing you just land on, you know.
makes me feel like I'm a bad parent because I don't spout off any of the famous inspirational quotes that both Uncle Ben and Aunt May did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing like that. I'm like, put that plug socket down. Don't eat it. You get in trouble. And my kids will grow up like, yeah, always remember Dad used to say, put that plug socket down, and he was right. So yeah, great game, love it. I hope you guys have played it, or even watch the cutscenes because it's like a movie. It's that level of quality.
Yeah.
Everyone's given a great performance. They're sort of becoming almost the characters to me, the people who do the voices, much in the same way that Kevin Conroy became Batman. And when I'm reading Spider-Man stuff, I'm starting to think of our Yuri's voice in my head.
Mhm.
A bit creepy. I know you interviewed him,
Well,
but
Coy
don't
did.
tell him I said that. Yeah, but Kai interviewed him, so he,
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't
did get
watch
meet
this,
him.
so he won't know.